is my distinct pleasure, when we let this spring, before town meeting votes in Vermont, we did a tour of 13 Vermont towns with John Nichols and Cindy Sheehan and myself and 3 amazing veterans from the U.S. military. One of them is here with us tonight. Adrienne Kinne served 10 years in military intelligence. She's an Arab linguist. She has seen the intelligence and the sort of spying aspect of our war and our military from a unique perspective. And now she works for the VA. So she's seeing another side of the legacy of war from yet another up close and personal and unique perspective. And Adrienne has become an amazing voice of reason, passion, and I'm really thrilled that she's here, and she's going to speak to you now. Adrienne Kinne.
Thank you very much. I'm not really sure how to follow that introduction, but basically I am here because I'm a veteran of the U.S. military. I was in the U.S. Army from 1994 to 1998, active duty, served as an Arabic linguist in military intelligence. I was a voice interceptor. In 1998, I switched to the reserves, and I was activated in the reserves after 9/11, and I was stationed stateside for about 2 years following the events of 9/11. And I just kind of saw in those 2 years of service how things drastically and dramatically changed for the worse. When I was on active duty in 94 to 98, never in a million years would we have ever even considered spying on an American citizen. Never. I remember one incident where an American citizen's name was mentioned in something that we had intercepted, and we deleted every single trace that we had ever intercepted. And it was just a reference to an American's name. It wasn't even a conversation, or it wasn't even anything that originated from an American, him or herself. So after 9/11, basically things just started changing. And, you know, we were intercepting satellite phone communications in Iraq and Afghanistan and throughout a whole swath of that region. And at the beginning, you know, it kind of made sense. We were kind of learning this new equipment. It was very different. I had never worked with anything like this before. Kind of going through, seeing what phone numbers fit with what organizations, what individuals. And it was actually as we started to kind of identify who these people were and started to realize that these were American citizens, and they were not American citizens regardless of what anybody in the administration will ever say. They were not American citizens that had anything to do with terrorism. They were Americans who worked for the American Red Cross, the UN, journalists, other humanitarian aid organizations, non-governmental organizations, and you started to question, why are we doing this? And at the time, the answer was we were given a waiver that we could listen to Americans just in case they should happen upon weapons of mass destruction in Iraq and accidentally reveal on the satellite phone communication with their fellow coworkers where all this stuff was, just in case that they might be in cahoots with some terroristic organization. That was basically what we were told. We could listen just in case. And to me, the Constitution and our constitutional rights shouldn't be waived just in case. That is not what our Constitution is about. That is not what our American, civil liberties are about. They should not be waived just in case. And it's just amazing to me, since kind of starting to speak out about this, at the time we intercepted satellite phone communications not only with Americans who are serving in the Middle East, but also their communications, their phone calls to home here in the United States. And at the time we were told, well, you can report on the part of the conversation that originates in Iraq or Afghanistan, just kind of forget what, the people in the States had to say. Since, and I don't know if it's because I started speaking out about it or just because, people in the administration have been feeling a lot of blowback from a lot of different avenues, but, before that we were told that we were given a waiver and that they had basically kind of waived law in the United States to make this legal. Unfortunately, I've come to find out that in recent months, FISA law has been changed to make all of this completely legal. And that is where, it seems that our government is going, and that's a path that I personally do not want to trod down. Part of me will always regret not having upheld my oath of military service to the fullest extent that I should have. You know, as a soldier, we take an oath to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And it's really only been since the beginning of this year when I got involved with not only impeachment and the impeachment movement, but also with Iraq Veterans Against the War, that I really kind of came to realize the significance of our oath of military service and what that really means. And I just want to say, you know, quickly, with Iraq Veterans Against the War, I'm now the New England Regional Coordinator of that organization, and I've just seen it grown tremendously, tremendously over the past 11 months. At the beginning of this year, we had 10 chapters across the country. We didn't have any in New England. Now we have over 32 chapters across the country. We've more than tripled our chapters. And we also have chapters in New Hampshire. We have a chapter in Vermont. We have a chapter in Rhode Island. We have a chapter in Boston. We'll soon have a chapter in Maine. We're looking towards Connecticut. And I really feel that, you know, veterans have a strong role to play in not only the impeachment movement, but also even if, and I hate to even say this, but even if impeachment were to just come to a standstill, because unfortunately you look to people in our Congress and you really wonder whether or not they're ever going to listen to the people. But really just kind of owning our responsibility as citizens, that regardless of what Congress does or doesn't do, it does not absolve us of our responsibility to hold our government accountable by whatever means necessary. And that's where Iraq Veterans Against the War is kind of coming into our main campaign that we've just started to kind of get together in the recent months. But in March of 2008, soldiers who have served in Iraq and Afghanistan will be testifying. It's going to be Winter Soldier Iraq and Afghanistan, March 13th through the 15th in Washington, D.C., basically calling the testimony of soldiers and veterans who have served in Iraq and Afghanistan. And not only that, but Iraqis and people from Afghanistan are also being invited to testify about the war crimes and atrocities that are being committed in these two countries. Because the incidences that have happened so far, they are not isolated. Torture, there are so many things that are going on in Iraq and Afghanistan right now. The raids on houses, abducting Iraqis, at all hours of the day and night without any reason, killing people, shooting them when approaching, checkpoints. This happens not because individual soldiers are making mistakes or they don't know what is going on, but because these are policies that our government and our military leaders have been forcing upon our soldiers. And and veterans who have served in Iraq and Afghanistan are going to be testifying about their experiences. So I just want to leave you with that. And please, if you can, just go to IVAW has a website, Iraq Veterans Against the War, and there's a tab on Winter Soldier, and you can click on that and show your support for Winter Soldier. I was just going to say, I've oftentimes asked myself that question as well. Where are the youth of this nation? And I had a really great experience in New York City just a month or so ago at the International Socialist Organization Conference in New York City, where I was just overwhelmed by the number of young kids, basically college-age students, the youth of our country. Basically, it was the most energetic room I have ever experienced. And these were kids who are basically not even just about ending the war in Iraq, not about just, restoring, our country to what it should be, but to making our country what it never has been and what it should have always been. So I would just say the ISO has been a huge, tremendous support. Campus Sign War Network, Students Against the War, they are out there. It's just a matter of bridging the gap between where they're at and where we're at. And I think that's a possibility.